The air in the obsidian chamber thrummed, thick with the electric tension of 1,000 unseen minds. Across the colossal expanse, carved from a single, impossibly dense asteroid, the Council of Xylar, the ruling body of the Krill Dominion, sat locked in a silence that was more a scream than a void. Each member, a being of shimmering, iridescent chitin, pulsed with a nervous energy that rippled across the chamber, reflected in the polished, obsidian surface that dominated the space. The visual display, a swirling galaxy of information and projections, showed the inevitable truth: a single, stark icon. A human vessel, impossibly fast, impossibly armed, and impossibly close to the critical systems of the Krill Empire. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed at the core of every Xylarian, a sensation that even the most seasoned diplomats and warriors found difficult to ignore. The initial assessment had been a catastrophic miscalculation. The humans, that primitive, upstart species from a backwater galaxy, had been dismissed as a curiosity, a potential trade partner at best, a minor annoyance at worst. Now, they were a harbinger of something more sinister, a force that threatened to unravel the meticulously constructed tapestry of Krill dominance. The first speaker, a venerable matriarch whose chitinous shell bore the intricate scars of centuries of experience, finally broke the silence. Her voice, a low, resonant thrum that seemed to vibrate the very foundations of the chamber, was laced with an uncharacteristic edge. The situation, as you all see, is critical. The human vessel, designated the Dauntless, continues its rapid advance. Sensor readings suggest a level of energy containment we have never before witnessed. It moves with a velocity that defies established physics. Their technology, it is a nightmare we did not anticipate. A ripple of unease swept through the chamber, the shimmering surfaces reflecting the growing dread. The Krill, a species renowned for their technological prowess and their mastery of the spatial arts, had long considered themselves the apex predators of the galactic stage. They had mapped the stars, conquered countless worlds, and enforced their will with a ruthless efficiency. This single, insignificant human vessel was now threatening to dismantle it all. The second speaker, a young, ambitious member eager to demonstrate his influence, shifted restlessly. Surely there must be an explanation, a weakness we can exploit. We have dealt with countless threats before. This is merely a new challenge. His words, meant to bolster confidence, rang hollow. The Krill had faced powerful foes in their long history, but none had possessed such unpredictable capabilities, such a blatant disregard for established galactic norms. The elder matriarch turned towards the second speaker. A challenge, yes, but one that requires a level of caution, of strategic depth that you, Kale, seem to underestimate. We have sent fleets to intercept. The initial engagements were inconclusive. Their defense systems are unlike anything we have encountered. Energy weapons that slice through shields with frightening ease. Adaptive armor that seems to reconfigure itself in response to our attacks. And their speed. The sheer, unimaginable speed is our greatest disadvantage. They seem to anticipate our moves. They evade, they attack, and they are relentless. A collective shudder passed through the council. Relentlessness was a trait the Krill understood. They had built their empire on it, but to encounter it in an enemy, to see it reflected in their own ambition, was a chilling prospect. A strategist, a being whose chitinous structure was almost entirely a series of interlocking, crystalline plates, rose to address the council. We have analyzed every data point, every sensor reading. There are inconsistencies. Their power source remains a mystery. Their tactical doctrine is fluid, almost chaotic. But beneath the apparent chaos, there is a core of terrifying efficiency. They do not appear to be motivated by the traditional drives of conquest or resource acquisition. They do not seek to dominate or to exploit. Their actions, they are enigmatic. This lack of clear motivation was perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the human presence. The Krill understood greed, ambition, the hunger for power. They knew how to manipulate these drives, how to exploit them. But the humans, they were a blank canvas, a puzzle that defied solution. The third speaker, known for his wisdom and his cautious nature, finally intervened. We must consider the possibility that we have underestimated them, that their apparent simplicity is a carefully constructed facade. We have been arrogant, and now we are on the precipice of consequences. We must engage in negotiations. We must open a channel of communication. The suggestion was met with a chorus of objections. The Krill did not negotiate. They dictated. They conquered. They did not parley with beings they deemed inferior. But the precarious situation, the unsettling truth of the human threat, had fractured the council's confidence. The first speaker slowly nodded. The third speaker is correct. We have delayed long enough. Open a channel to the dauntless. And prepare for the possibility that we face an opponent unlike any we have ever encountered. Send them a message and show them we are willing to hear them out. As the directive was given, the visuals of the grand chamber shifted, reconfiguring to focus on an open comms channel. The Xylarians held their breath, waiting for a response, and what was about to follow would shift their entire world. The image on the screen, a view from the bridge of the Dauntless, was initially filled with a static fuzz. It resolved into a clear, crisp image of a human, a being of astonishingly fragile appearance, with smooth, pink skin, a structured face, and large, dark eyes. The human was clad in a simple, dark uniform without ostentation or apparent power-related displays. The chamber was prepared for hostility, for threats, for displays of power, but they were met with something altogether different. Calm. The human looked directly at the camera, a small, subtle smile playing on his lips. He spoke, and his voice was translated instantly by the Xylarian computers. "Greetings, I am Captain Eva Rostova, commanding officer of the Dauntless. We are aware of your concern. We do not intend to engage in hostilities. We seek understanding, and we wish to engage in commerce. We believe we can be mutually beneficial to each other." The words were simple, the tone even, without arrogance or aggression. It was a calculated display of confidence and control. The silence in the chamber was even more intense this time, filled with confusion and apprehension. The Krill did not know how to react to such a straightforward approach. It defied their expectations, their strategies. The second speaker, Kale, attempted to regain control. "What do you mean mutually beneficial? You are here, in our space, with technology we do not understand, and you speak of commerce?" The Krill struggled to contain their rage, their suspicion, their inherent sense of superiority. Rostova's response was immediate, unruffled. "We have observed your civilization for some time. We have studied your culture, your technology, and your values. We believe we can offer you access to technologies that would accelerate your scientific progress exponentially. We can offer you resources that would bolster your economy and further your dominion. Our intentions are peaceful. We have already analyzed the needs of your people and their desires." The first speaker, recognizing the potential, leaned forward, her interest piqued. The Krill, like all empires, craved expansion, progress, and power. If the humans could deliver this. "And what do you require in return?" The first speaker's voice echoed in the cavernous space. Rostova's answer was delivered with the same level of assuredness. "Simply understanding, cooperation, a partnership. We seek to share our knowledge and to learn from yours. We ask for nothing that would compromise your sovereignty or your safety. We merely want to build a shared future. And we ask for the freedom to explore the galaxy as we see fit." The proposal was radical, unprecedented. The Krill were accustomed to receiving demands, threats, and ultimatums. They were not accustomed to being offered a partnership on equal terms. The strategist, the crystalline-plated Xylarian, finally spoke. "Can you demonstrate these technologies? Can you provide evidence of your claims? We will not blindly accept your offers." Rostova smiled, a small, genuine expression. "Of course, we have prepared a demonstration. It will take only moments to initiate." A wave of her hand, and the display shifted once again, this time revealing a series of complex diagrams, intricate schematics, and impossible calculations. The visuals were stunning, showcasing a level of understanding of the universe that surpassed the Krill's current comprehension. The data displayed the blueprints for an energy source, an engine and weaponry which would redefine the parameters of their current technological capabilities. It showcased the potential of their dominion, the future of their civilization, and the vast potential for the prosperity of the Krill. A collective gasp, a ripple of astonishment, echoed through the chamber. The Krill, the masters of technology, were humbled. The first speaker finally spoke. "It is extraordinary. This changes everything." The other council members murmured their agreement. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a reality far grander, far more complex than they had ever imagined. "It is only the beginning," Rostova said, her voice filled with a hint of gentle persuasion. "We have much to offer. We believe we can become a valuable ally, an indispensable partner, but we will not force our hand. The choice, as always, is yours. The tension in the chamber slowly began to dissipate, replaced by a cautious optimism, a glimmer of hope. The Krill, for the first time in their long history, were forced to confront their own limitations. They were forced to consider the possibility that they were not the only game in the galaxy, and that perhaps it was not only a game, but a path to a better future. The tide had turned. Days turned into weeks as human and Krill scientists, engineers, and diplomats worked side by side. The Dauntless became a hub of collaboration, exchanging knowledge and technologies. The initial fear gave way to a grudging respect, then to genuine admiration. The Krill, initially skeptical of human abilities, were astounded by their ingenuity, their adaptability, their relentless pursuit of knowledge. They witnessed the rapid advancements in their own technologies, the unlocking of secrets that had eluded them for centuries. They observed the humans' calm composure even in the face of great peril. They marveled at their ethical principles. They were not driven by greed or by conquest. They were driven by a desire to understand, to explore, and to improve. The Council of Xylar, once divided, now worked in concert, planning, debating, and adapting to their new reality. They learned of humanity's long history, its struggles, its triumphs. They learned of their values, their ethics, their unwavering commitment to a common cause. They came to understand that the humans' seemingly simple nature was, in fact, an intricate tapestry of kindness, cooperation, and unparalleled drive. They understood that the humans were, in many ways, the opposite of the Krill, and that there was a power to this, a sense of peace they'd never had. The Dauntless was not alone. Now more ships were arriving, trade vessels, scientific expeditions, and diplomatic envoys. Humanity was integrating itself into the fabric of the Krill Empire, and the galaxy watched with a mixture of awe and trepidation. They now had a reputation, one that preceded them, one of calm and unparalleled power, one of ethical principles, and one they would have to learn to live with. But their integration was not without its challenges. There were still those within the Krill Empire who resented the humans, who saw them as a threat to their dominance. There were clashes, disputes, and moments of tension. But the humans, with their characteristic patience and their unwavering commitment to diplomacy, managed to navigate these challenges with grace and expertise. They found a way to bridge the gaps, to build understanding, and to foster a spirit of cooperation. The council chamber buzzed with an unprecedented level of activity, a constant flow of information and debate. It was no longer a place of fear and uncertainty. It had become a center of innovation, a hub of diplomacy, and a symbol of the new alliance between the Krill and the humans. The first speaker, now the foremost advocate for the new era, looked out at her council, her voice strong and filled with purpose. Humans have shown us the way. They have shown us the power of cooperation, the value of compassion, and the importance of looking beyond our own narrow perspectives. They have proven that the galaxy is far more vast, far more complex than we ever imagined, and they have also demonstrated that fear is not a path to security, but a path to self-destruction. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the chamber, touching each member in turn. We have faced the abyss, and we have emerged stronger, united. Prepared. The second speaker, Kale, who had once been a vocal critic of the humans, now stood beside the first speaker. I was wrong. We were all wrong. The humans are not a threat. They are our salvation. They are our future. The chamber was silent. The Krill, beings of iron and tradition, had admitted their mistakes. They had accepted that their old ways were no longer enough, that a new era had dawned. This new alliance was a testament to the power of understanding, a symbol of hope in a galaxy that desperately needed it. And then the alarms blared. The display, which had been showing a detailed map of the Krill Empire, abruptly changed. The image shifted, reorienting to show the vast expanse of space. And then a series of red dots appeared, emanating from the uncharted regions beyond the galactic rim. They were countless. The first speaker's face became a mask of shock. What is that? The crystalline-plated strategist rushed to the central console, his eyes darting across the readings. I do not understand. They are beyond our sensors. They are coming from everywhere. The visuals zoomed, revealing the true nature of the approaching force. It was unlike anything the Krill had ever encountered. The ship designs were not known. The ships were of an alien species, seemingly infinite in number and impossibly advanced. They were a a tide of destruction bearing down on the Krill Empire. The Dauntless was the first to respond. Captain Rostova's face appeared on the main screen, her expression one of grim determination. "We have detected a large-scale extragalactic incursion. We are tracking a significant military force, advancing at an unimaginable speed." The captain's voice was clear, but her eyes held a grave light. "How many?" the first speaker demanded. "Can you give us a figure?" Rostova paused, the silence stretching on. "We are not sure, there are too many to count. Our sensors are overwhelmed." A chill, a primal terror, gripped the chamber. A full-scale invasion, a force of such overwhelming power that even the Krill, with their advanced technology and their vast empire, were helpless. "Prepare for all-out war," Kale roared, his former arrogance replaced by a grim resolve. "Alert all fleets, activate all defensive systems." The Krill, for all their past arrogance, had prepared for conflict. They would fight to the last. Rostova's voice cut through the pandemonium. "The Dauntless has already engaged. We are attempting to buy you time." The screen then shifted, showcasing the Dauntless in combat. It was a terrifying display of firepower, the human vessel deftly weaving through the endless swarm of alien ships, destroying them with ruthless efficiency, all the while taking damage. But it was fighting a losing battle. The sheer number of enemy vessels was overwhelming. "That is impressive," the first speaker admitted despite herself, "but it will not be enough." It was the truth. Their enemies were too many. They had no hope. Then Captain Rostova spoke again. "We cannot hold them. We need time. We need help." The screen blinked once before going to black. The implication was clear. Their efforts, their sacrifices, would buy the Krill time. Time to prepare. Time to fight. Time to save themselves. The first speaker looked at the council, her eyes filled with a new kind of emotion. Respect, admiration, and the stark, brutal reality of their situation. "They have bought us time, time we will not waste." The display showed the next phase of the operation. Rostova had sent the schematics, the data of the vessel, the technologies to the Xylarians, along with all the battle records and all information on the alien threat. They were working together. In unison, the Krill and humans began the mobilization of their forces. Fleets of Krill warships, armed with human technology and tactical doctrine, surged out of the star systems. In the depths of space, an unimaginable armada was being built. The vast production lines, with Xylarians and humans, and even those Krill who had previously harbored hate, were working in a symphony of progress. New shields, new weapons, new tactics. The galaxy had never seen such a force, such a collaboration. The Council of Xylar, united now, with the humans as their allies, began to prepare for the inevitable. The Krill Empire, with the new advancements, the human technology, and the combined strategic brilliance of the two races, was poised to fight for their survival. They were ready to fight the alien threat. They would fight to protect their alliance, their unity. They were ready to fight for their future. But it was only the beginning. As the Krill and human fleets moved into position, ready to engage the alien force, a new, unforeseen event occurred. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. First, a flicker in the communications channels, then a distortion in the energy readings. The atmosphere in the chamber grew heavy, charged with an unsettling energy. The Krill, used to their advanced technology, found the disruptions disturbing, and something they did not understand. Something that was not a part of their own making. The crystalline strategist, now working in tandem with human scientists, was the first to recognize the anomaly. His voice, strained with a mix of surprise and dread, echoed through the chamber. There is a signal originating from the edge of the galaxy, a signal that is ancient and familiar." The visuals on the main display changed, showing a complex series of patterns, symbols, and mathematical equations. It was a signal of such age and complexity that it defied understanding. But the data was there. The truth. The first speaker, her face a mask of confusion, leaned forward. "What are you saying? What is familiar?" The scientist paused, then continued, his voice barely a whisper. "The human language, the mathematical structures, the very core of this signal, it mirrors our own, but it is more advanced." The other council members gasped. The humans were able to decode the signal and translated it instantly. Captain Rostova's voice rang in their ears. "We understand this signal." A wave of panic swept through the chamber. What was this? The implication was staggering. The humans knew of this signal and possibly the entity it came f. Rum. What is the message? The first speaker demanded. Tell us. The tension was unbearable. What was the origin of this signal? Who sent it? And what did it mean? Rostova's voice was flat and motionless. It is a warning. The Krill, united in their newfound alliance with humanity, could not understand until the data appeared. The text scrolled across the screen, rendered in both human and Krill, accompanied by a series of increasingly disturbing images. Images of worlds consumed by fire, of civilizations wiped out, of entire galaxies turned to dust. This is not just a military incursion. It is not an invasion. It is, Captain Rostova paused, a purge. The Krill, accustomed to conquest, to dominance, realized this was something more than they had ever faced. A cosmic threat. An extinction-level event. The alien swarm they were preparing to fight was merely the vanguard, the harbinger of a far greater danger. The first speaker, her voice laced with despair, spoke. Who is doing this? Rostova's answer was delivered with a somber tone. They are the harbingers, a weapon, a galactic cleansing force. They are sent out to wipe out civilizations that deviate from a particular path. She paused then, with a heavy tone. That path is solitude, a universe of only one species. They are here to cleanse the galaxy. The display showed the final image, a series of complex diagrams that at first glance seemed incomprehensible. Then, as the humans and the Krill scientists studied it, they began to recognize the patterns. They realized it was a map of the galaxy, but not a map of stars and planets. It was a map of civilizations, and some of those civilizations were gone. The humans, we have been studying these warnings for a long time. They have been monitoring the harbingers for millennia, Rostova explained. They have been watching, learning, preparing. They have known that this time would come, and we are next. The first speaker slowly absorbed the information, the crushing weight of the revelation. They are targeting entire species for existing. This is not just conquest. This is genocide. The strategist spoke, his voice quiet, and we are next. A wave of despair, a cold, crushing weight, descended upon the chamber. The Krill, the humans, were now facing something far more terrifying than the alien fleet. They were facing an enemy whose goal was the eradication of all life. They were facing an enemy that was not motivated by greed or by conquest, but by a horrifying ideology. The end of diversity. The end of all hope. But then, as despair threatened to consume the council, Rostova's voice, which had been solemn, became resolute. We have prepared for this. We have studied the patterns of their attacks. We know their weaknesses. We know how they think. And we know how to fight them. How? The first speaker said, hope blooming in the darkness. We will fight as one, Rostova answered. The Krill and the humans, we will fight for each other. We will fight for our right to exist. A new wave of energy surged through the chamber. It was not despair. It was resolve. The Krill, despite their initial fears and their past arrogance, were ready to fight alongside their new allies. The war was no longer about territory or resources. It was about survival. As the alien fleet closed in and the battle commenced, the true nature of the humans' actions was revealed. Their calm, their confidence, their seemingly limitless capabilities. The Krill understood. They had not been arrogant but prepared. The humans had been anticipating this moment for centuries, perhaps even millennia. They had prepared, and they were ready to use all the tools at their disposal. But the battle was not just against the harbingers. It was against the very fabric of reality. The Krill and the humans were fighting for the future, for the galaxy itself. They were fighting for diversity, for the right to exist, for the dream of a galaxy where different species could coexist, where differences were celebrated, not destroyed. The battle raged, a cosmic ballet of destruction and defiance. The Krill warships, armed with human technology and human battle plans, fought alongside the human vessels. The galaxy had never seen such a force, such a collaboration. The Dauntless and the Krill flagships led the charge, carving a path through the enemy swarm. The display showcased the destruction, the fighting, the sheer carnage of war. The humans revealed new weapons, new tactics, and new strategies. They deployed energy shields that were nearly impervious to the harbingers' attacks, and weapons that could slice through their hulls with ease. The Krill, marveling at the humans' preparedness, fought with renewed vigor, their ships unleashing devastating barrages of energy weapons. And then, at the height of the conflict, as the Harbingers threatened to overwhelm the combined fleet, the humans unveiled their most stunning weapon, a weapon that could change the tides of war, a weapon that was beyond the comprehension of the Krill, a weapon that they had been preparing to use for a long time. As the Krill and humans clashed with the Harbingers, as the vessels collided, as the alarms blared, and as the future seemed lost, a colossal, impossibly massive object emerged from the fringes of the galaxy. It was a structure, an artifact of such vast proportions that it dwarfed even the largest Krill battle cruisers. The visuals filled the entire display. The structure was a megastructure, ancient, abandoned, and bristling with advanced technology. It was a relic of a lost civilization, a civilization that had fought the Harbingers long ago. The first speaker gasped, What is that?" Ristova's voice, coming from the Dauntless, was calm. "That, my friends, is the key to our salvation. It is called the Nexus, a weapon, a message." The Krill could not understand. A weapon against the Harbingers. "But how can we?" Kale stammered. "It is a weapon, yes, but its purpose is more than simply destruction." Ristova's tone had a gravity, a significance. "It is a message to all the sentient species throughout the galaxy, to prepare, to unite, to resist." "The Nexus," the first speaker said slowly, the name echoing in the vast chamber. "We must find a way to use it." "We will, but it requires time and a sacrifice." Ristova's words hung in the air. "We must allow them to board, we must allow them to explore, and the cost to our fleet may be vast." The order was given, the humans took the lead. Boarding parties were dispatched. Krill ships moved to protect them. The display showed the humans entering the Nexus. The Krill watched with bated breath. All the while, the tide of the Harbingers still raged. A new screen displayed the internal workings of the Nexus. The Krill saw, for the first time, the true potential of the human capabilities. The human crew worked at an unbelievable pace. Their actions were precise, efficient, almost effortless. But the Harbingers were coming. The Krill and human fleets fought. The losses were terrible. And then it happened. The Nexus came to life. A beam of pure energy, a beacon of defiance, erupted from the Nexus. It was a signal, a wave of information that radiated across the galaxy. This was their message, the message for all civilizations to unite, to prepare, to fight. The Harbingers were stunned, disoriented. They had not anticipated resistance. The beam of energy destabilized their forces. It was a strategic masterstroke, a weapon of cosmic proportions. The signal was a beacon of resistance, the beginning of a galaxy-wide rebellion. The fleet of Harbingers, which had seemed unstoppable, was halted. Their advance, for the first time, was slowed. The Krill, witnessing the power of the Nexus, the ingenuity of the humans, were filled with a mixture of awe and hope. It was a turning point. It had worked. And then, as the energy faded, as the initial shock of the Harbingers began to wear off, the display shifted once again. "We have detected a second signal," the strategist spoke. "From where?" The first speaker's voice was strained. "It appears to be from within the Nexus, coming directly from the core of the megastructure." The display showed the core of the Nexus, a massive chamber filled with strange machinery. And standing in the center of the room, alone, was Captain Eva Ristova. She looked towards the camera, her face calm, but her eyes were filled with a sadness, a profound knowledge. She looked like a woman who knew what was coming. "There's a message," she said, her voice clear and steady. "A message from the civilization that built this, the Guardians. They were the ones who first resisted the Harbingers. They knew this day would come. They knew we would have to fight." She paused, then took a deep breath. "They have left us a final directive. It is the key to victory." The screen blinked and a new message appeared. "The Harbingers are not machines. They are not mindless weapons. They are corrupted." The Krill looked at the data in confusion. Corrupted. Then Ristova spoke. "They have been twisted by a force. They have been broken by a power beyond our comprehension. To defeat them, we must repair them." The words hung in the air, a final reveal of unexpected proportions. The Krill gasped, confused. Repair them? They were an enemy. They came to destroy. The weapon is not just a message. It is a conduit. The Nexus can reverse their corruption and free them, but it will require us to sacrifice ourselves. Rostova's voice then faded as she stepped into the heart of the Nexus. The first speaker's face was a mask of grief. But the Nexus. We cannot use the Nexus to repair the Harbingers. The strategist paused. It is the only way. The price is too high, Kale cried out. The Krill could not understand. They had fought for so long. As the humans and the Krill debated, the inevitable occurred. The display showed the final transmission, a vast explosion. The Nexus had detonated. In the aftermath, a signal swept through the galaxy. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had sacrificed themselves to save the galaxy. Their final act, their ultimate message of defiance, had resonated across the stars. The Harbingers were no more. The display, though showing the devastation, also showed the final victory. The corrupted ships were cleansed. The alien swarm had been transformed. The galaxy was safe. In the wake of the battle, the Krill, who had witnessed the humans' sacrifice, were forever changed. They had faced the abyss, and now they had emerged from the darkness. They would never forget. The first speaker, her voice filled with emotion, turned to the council. They showed us the true meaning of courage, they showed us the power of cooperation, and they showed us the value of sacrifice. She paused, her eyes welling with tears. We will not forget them. The chamber, once a place of fear and uncertainty, was now filled with a sense of reverence, a sense of unity. The Krill, the humans, had forged a bond that would endure for all time. The display showed the future. New alliances were being forged, new technologies were being developed. The galaxy was healing, recovering, and becoming more vibrant. The galaxy had transformed. In the final scene, we see the Dauntless again. It has been refurbished and repainted. The colors were dark, but it had a beauty. It was now a monument, a reminder of the humans, a vessel of peace. And then the screen showed a star system, a system the humans had come from. A planet, a world of blue and green. The first speaker and the Krill were there. They had arrived on the planet. They were standing on the surface. They were accompanied by a small group of humans. The vessel was the Dauntless. Its purpose was to serve as a reminder, a memory, a monument to the humans. As the first speaker watched, a soft light appeared in the sky, then another, and another. Soon, hundreds of lights were visible, and they began to form into a picture, the shape of a human. And as the camera panned out, it showed that thousands of ships, with both Krill and human crew, were participating. The ships of the galaxy. They were building a memorial, a monument to the humans. The humans were gone, but their message had lived on. The screen then went to black. The silence in the obsidian chamber, a silence that had once been a source of fear, now felt filled with hope. The galaxy was silent, in honor of the humans. The galaxy would never be the same.